Hey guys, I'm Jen Ledger from the band LEDGER and also the band Skillet, so let's get rolling.
If you don't already know who Jen is, she's the drummer from Skillet, that amazing woman who's like killing it in the back with that amazing vocal. So you're brand new at doing like a solo artist thing, and I'm just curious, what is that like? Do you ever get nervous because you're used to having everyone else
absolutely.
with you?
Honestly, it was way more stretching than I thought it was going to be. I'm so used to being behind the drums in my own little world. I come out and sing a bit with Skillet, so I thought, you know, I've done this before, I've got some experience here, it should be fine. But man, that first LEDGER show I did, it's like I've never been more aware of my own limbs. And I'm like, it's like, I'm like, what do I do with my arms and legs? All of a sudden, I'm like, everything feels unnatural. And, you know, I wasn't expecting it to be that stretching, but man, there's such an art form to being a front person. And not only that, you know, like between the songs, there's like an awkward silence, but...
Oh, you have to talk, I didn't even think about that.
It's awkward if I'm awkward, and it's not awkward if I'm not awkward. And all of a sudden I'm realizing, oh, it's uncomfortable because I'm uncomfortable. so you know what? It's given me mad respect for John Cooper from Skillet because I already knew he was a phenomenal frontman. But now, like, stepping into it a little bit more, I'm just like, he's not phenomenal, he's like legendary. He's so good. He always has the crowd like eating out the palm of his hand. He's got them laughing and that's like, honestly, it's talent, that is. And I'm learning and I'm trying to follow in his footsteps and just enjoy myself up there the way he does. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system for sure.
I'm sure that's gotta be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was.
I heard that you've been writing some of these songs for years, like working on them and praying about this. And so what is it like now that you're touring, you're on Winter Jam, to be able to see all these people consuming songs that were just like a thought, and they really are your heart when it's all you. What is it like to see them receive?
That's honestly such a great question because it's super exciting, but it's like an incredibly surreal and like beautiful season for me because often, you know, like you can feel like God's stirring things in your heart, but then you don't see them when you think that he was gonna bring them, you know? And it was like 7 years ago now that I felt like God started stirring in me to write my own music. And I remember we were meeting people all over the world, like Japan, Europe, Russia, that are like being rescued by music. They were going to kill themselves or they were addicted to drugs, and they hear a Skillet song on the radio and it saves their lives. And I just think it's incredible how God uses that. And I was meeting a lot of girls that were learning drums because of me, or
That's insane.
Yeah, and it sounds silly, but they're like changing their hair to be like me, and I felt like
I'm thinking about it. I'm not lying.
Yeah, and I just feel super humbled at the power of influence that God's given me on this platform. And basically I felt really challenged, like, man, with all these media stars, Instagram stars, reality TV stars being the loudest voices into this young generation, if I've got a small platform and a small window where people are listening to me, why not use it in an even more vocal way to talk about my faith? And so I just kind of felt like it was something God had for me because I was seeing that people were listening, so why not take this platform? And I'm not going to regret like the fact that I went for it, but I might regret the fact that I never tried because I was too scared, you know? So it was honestly years of writing, not knowing when the right time was, and it was within the last few years that the LEDGER like sound and songs, they kind of had their own identity then, you know, it was really matured. And truthfully, I'd just been through more stuff and I'd matured as a person too. And so it seemed really clear that now was the time. But that's a long waiting process, you know? And so when you're praying into something, and there's definitely times where the door closes and you think, was I wrong? Was I stupid? Was I just completely off for that? And so to go through that long of a journey, trusting and holding everything loosely, like, Lord, if you want this, let's do it. And if you don't, I'm totally happy with everything you've given me. So that's kind of just choosing to be in that place, but then actually doing it this year is like monumental in my walk with him. And like, you know, when you've been praying for something that long and then all of a sudden it's here. And I remember that first show, after I sang the first song, I was like, this is really weird that this is really happening right now. Like, it's been so young.
Dream
yeah, it was like, and when you've spent that much time thinking, praying, hoping, to actually walk into it is beautiful and surreal, and I'll never forget it. It's all the Lord. It's all what he's done. It's all him leading me. And truthfully, I wanted to be a hairdresser in Coventry, England.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. Yeah. I was like, you would still be good, but God had something else in store.
To be sitting here with you in two bands, I've been in Skillet 11 years, toured the world, and now I'm doing my own music too. I'm like, thank God I said yes to you even when it felt too big, even when it felt like I can't do that. And I said yes out of obedience at the time. He has blessed me with a journey and an adventure that I never thought was possible. Yeah. And so to sit here chatting to you is surreal in itself, you know? Like,
it's exciting though. Yeah. I mean, can we talk about fear for a minute?
Of course, absolutely.
You touched on that, and like, I think we all deal with that voice that like the enemy brings in our head, that we are not equipped, that we don't have what it takes, that like you said, that maybe I made up what I was supposed to do or what I felt like I was like.
Did I not hear you? Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you combat the fear to end up actually doing it and now speaking and making your own music?
Yeah. I mean, it is something I've fought a ton in my life, is fear. Like when Skillet asked me to try out, I said no because it scared me. Yeah, I didn't like.
And you were really young.
Yeah, I was 17 and I was like, they're a rock band. Like I'd get sick playing on a Sunday morning at church. So the idea of playing for thousands, I'm like, yeah, nah, there's no way. And not only that, I just kind of looked to my left and right and saw a bunch of other people that played a lot better than I did. So I just thought, no. But I was praying about it, and I really felt like God spoke to me through Isaiah 41, and it says, like, do not fear, for I am with you. I have called you from the ends of the earth. I will make you strong, and I will hold you by my right hand. And I was like, man, I don't know what you're doing with me, but I'll just go for it. And of course, like, to look back and see how he's used my drumming, the very thing I thought was unusable about me. I thought I was just so bad at it, and he's like really just changed me and helped me. And when it's in his hand, it's something new, because and I thought it was my weakness, but in him it's strength. He's glorified himself through it massively. And so after being in Skillet for a while, I really felt, you know, fear would pop up in little ways, whether it was a big show and I'm just a bit nervous. But there was about 3 years ago where I started to have panic attacks and anxiety in a way that I'd never had before. I was waking up in the night with like actual terror in my heart, and it was horrible. It was really intense season. And it was when I was praying about the LEDGER project, and it was kind of starting to become more real. And I thought, I just felt discouraged, and I felt completely defeated, because I'm like, you know, when you wake up in the night that afraid and you're claiming to be a person of faith on a platform, the enemy quickly tells you, see, you're not good enough, you're not brave enough, you're not strong enough, this is who you really are. And it made me feel a bit like a fraud, or like, I can't believe that I would fight something like this when I'm meant to be a woman of faith. And I was wrestling through that a lot, and it was such an intense season that I thought, surely now that I've wrestled that, it was that dark, I'll never have to face. I thought it was like the final victory. I really dealt with the roots.
I'm doing better. I'm healed.
You're like, it's the root of the issue. I finally got to it, you know. And it was about a year later, I was on stage with Skillet, and I felt the panic start to come back, and it just like freaked me out. Yeah, I was like, I thought I beat it. And so I came off stage and I talked to Corey Cooper. She plays guitar for Skillet, and I just said, after all these years, I cannot believe that I'm still struggling with this same thing after fighting it over and over and over again. Like, what if this is something that just never goes away for me? Yeah. And she looked at me and she said, then you fight, Jen, while there's breath in your lungs, and until the day that you die, you never stop fighting, and you do not let fear rob you of your own life.
That is a word.
It was the word. Like, it was
never forgotten what
I needed to hear. And that's actually what I wrote the entire song Not Dead Yet about that, because, you know, as Christians, I think that when we have those struggles of fear and anxiety, we can tend to let it make us think, I can't do that, and I'm gonna hold back. I'm not even gonna try, because I know myself, I know what's in my heart, I'm not good enough. Yeah. And what I'm learning through the Bible and through people like David, Moses, Gideon, God chooses the people that don't make sense.
Yeah, He chooses the people who are like, I'm not strong. I can't do
Moses
it.
couldn't speak and he's called to tell everyone. You know, like it's just like David wasn't even invited to the anointing because he's the small young brother. He
so
chooses those that don't make sense. And actually it's through your weaknesses that he displays his glory even more. Like if someone that can't speak begins to speak for a nation, that matters more than someone who is already eloquent. So I'm just kind of like, what I found such a freedom in is God chooses the weak, he chooses the fool, he chooses the unlikely, he chooses the inadequate, he chooses the are-nots, he chooses those that do not make sense, and then he glorifies himself through them. Because the weaker you are, the faster you realize this has nothing to do with me and everything to do with him. So as a believer, it came to a place for me of, rather than letting fear or my like broken side, rather than letting that stop me, I'm actually gonna let it be my rejoice. Like I rejoice in the fact that I know I'm not good enough, and I rejoice in the fact that I know I'm broken.
It's like turning it on its head.
And he still chooses me, and he is with me. He wants me to do this. I know I'm weak. I know I can't, but he can. So why not rejoice in the fact that he chooses the broken and he chooses the weak? It's a wonderful thing to be as a Christian, and I think the faster we can get ourselves out of the way, and the faster we can let him do whatever he wants to do, and just acknowledge, even if I am talented, that is from him. So what do I have other than him? It's all him. And so those are the things I rest in. They're the things that I choose to let my mind meditate on, because it is the truth that matters, and it's the truth that's going to keep me living in victory and freedom. Comparison will kill you. It will cripple you.
Every time.
And so kind of like, if you are going to compare, like, boast in the fact that Jesus has chosen you. It's the only thing that matters.
That is so good, but it's still like a battle, which is so true.
Yes,
last night I went to dinner with one of my close girlfriends, and she has been dealing with anxiety and depression for a long time. And just last week, she checked herself into like a short inpatient facility, and I didn't know. And I said, I didn't even know what your song, Not Dead Yet, was like from in your own life, but I had just watched it in preparation to talk to you. And I said, do you know this song? Like, I'm going to send it to you. And I told her about the imagery in your music video of being in the ring and getting hit, but you're saying, I'm still going to fight. Can you explain, like, why that imagery is so important?
I loved doing the video because it was actually like too graphic. They made me tone it down because I was like really scared to do like this.
I'm all beat up.
I was like, I don't want to do a cheesy video. I want to I want to represent what it felt like when I was really struggling with fear. And fear feels impossible to beat. It feels like you face it and it looks like I purposely asked for an MMA fighter that's massive. I found the biggest one I could find, because that's what fear does. It distorts. It makes everything you're facing feel impossible. And the reason I'm like completely beat up at the beginning of the video is because it's kind of meant to represent what it feels like when you're in it. You've already been through several rounds. You thought you'd fought it already, and here you are facing it again. And it leaves you feeling defeated, and it makes you feel like because you fought it before, and the fact you've ended up down again, it makes you not want to stand up. It makes you not want to try, because you're like, I'm only going to have to face it again in the future. And I think that is actually the battle. The battle isn't beating the thing in front of you. It's not about me getting bigger than my opponent. It's about choosing to stand to my feet because of who is with me. Because I could never beat that on my own, but he can. And not only that, like, I know for me, when I was struggling with fear, a lot of it was to do with my thoughts. And so there's a scene where I'm kind of locked up in a house that's dark and abandoned. And fear and lies of the enemy will isolate you in a way like nothing else. It'll make you feel ashamed to tell anyone what's going on. And I found that I had to really dig in the word for truth. I had to fight for truth. It wasn't something that just washed into my brain and I had freedom. I had to search the scripture. I had to tell people around me what was going on and have people help me.
Have them remind you.
Exactly.
Like
and you know what? It's a fight though. I have to tear down those boards. I have to tear down the lies of the enemy and replace it with the truth and the light of the gospel and of the word. And so it was meant to kind of represent the physical side of fear and anxiety, but then also the emotional and mental side of fear and anxiety. And they go hand in hand, and kind of more so in your mind and what you meditate on and what you choose to let be truth.
It's a battle in there.
Exactly. And then in the end, you know, when God shines a light on something, I feel like, is it John Piper that says something along the lines of, you know, you think you're holding a precious jewel in the dark, but then you bring it into the light and it's actually a cockroach. Or like there's, yeah, he says something else, like you think there's like this big roaring lion in the room, but then the light turns on and it's an ant. Like darkness distorts. Darkness makes you think things that aren't rational and they aren't truth. But when you shine the light of the word on it, things change, your perspective changes. And for me, yeah, maybe I'm facing Goliath himself. But it's not about the fact that I'm facing Goliath. It's the fact that I've got God with me. It's always comes back to that. And that's what kind of Not Dead Yet is about. Like, I'm not going to all of a sudden be bigger than the opponent. I'm not going to change here. I'm still broken. I still struggle. But he's with me, and he's chosen me, and he loves me, and that's where my power is, you know?
Yeah, you know where your strength comes from.
Exactly.
That's so powerful, and I think that's a message that so many women and men need to hear today, that like just because you're fighting a hard battle doesn't mean that you're weak.
And if you struggle with anxiety, then I would say what it's going to want you to do is to hide and isolate and not try. Fight by just getting up. Fight by going out when you don't want to. Fight by talking to someone when everything in you is saying, I don't want to, I'm anxious. Like just those small steps of just not letting it rule your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like just standing up every day with depression and choosing to get out of your bed. Just don't give up the fight. The enemy wants you to never even try. If you don't even try, he's already won. So at least try. You know, at least stand up again. Choose to fight every day. Choose to fight every hour. You just choosing to fight is victory in itself, because if he can just get you not even trying, he's already won. Right. So
you're so much stronger than you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. With God on your side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Incredible.